The worn linoleum floor of Marigold's diner had seen better days. Its once bright checkerboard pattern had dulled from years of foot traffic, mop water, and time. Yet there was something charming about the place. The faint smell of bacon and coffee hung permanently in the air, and the vintage jukebox in the corner still worked, sometimes. The big windows let in golden sunlight that softened the edges of the small town scene outside. Life moved slower here in Millbrook, and people liked it that way. The only thing that moved fast was Alex Monroe, busboy, father, and survivor. Alex wiped his brow with the sleeve of his white work shirt, smearing a streak of dish soap just above his eyebrow. It had been a long morning, and it was only 11:43 a.m. He darted behind the counter to stack freshly dried plates, picked up a tray of half-eaten breakfasts, and dodged the cook's barking orders. Every movement was precise, automatic, and well-practiced. He'd been working here 6 days a week for almost 2 years now. He never complained. He couldn't afford to. In the corner booth near the window sat 2 small girls, identical in every way but temperament. Ava had her nose buried in a coloring book, her tongue poking out of the corner of her mouth as she tried to stay inside the lines. Aria, meanwhile, was quietly plotting her escape from the booth, sliding one leg out and peeking around for mischief. Both wore faded pink dresses, a little too short on their growing frames, with matching hair clips holding back their strawberry curls. Alex kept glancing at them every few seconds, wiping dishes with one hand while checking on them with the other. "You girls doing okay?" he called out gently from across the diner. Ava looked up and nodded with a smile. Aria gave a thumbs up, though it was upside down. They were his light, his reason, his every heartbeat. Life hadn't been kind to Alex in recent years. His wife, Cassie, had passed away from ovarian cancer when the girls were just 3. The hospital bills alone had buried him financially, and every plan they'd made together crumbled overnight. But he had held on, one day at a time, one shift at a time. Today was supposed to be their father-daughter day. He had promised a trip to the park, sandwiches on a picnic blanket, and blowing bubbles under the big oak tree. But when the diner's dishwasher called out and the manager was short-staffed, Alex didn't have the luxury to say no. Bills were due. Rent was late again. So he'd packed a bag of snacks, brought along some coloring books, and convinced the manager to let the girls sit quietly in the booth while he worked. They'd been patient, so far. But by the time the lunch rush hit, the girls were visibly squirming. Aria kicked the booth with tiny sneakers, sending thuds across the floor. Ava sighed loudly and dropped her crayon. Alex noticed immediately. He abandoned the stack of plates and approached the booth. "Girls, hang in there, okay? Just a little bit longer." Aria folded her arms. "But you said bubbles." Ava chimed in. "And peanut butter sandwiches." I know, he said, kneeling beside them, "I didn't forget. I brought the bubbles. We'll go right after I finish." "But I'm bored," Aria groaned dramatically, leaning back against the seat and flopping like a fish. Ava's eyes welled slightly. "I don't want to sit anymore." Alex's heart cracked just a little. He hated seeing them like this, waiting on the sidelines while he worked himself raw. He looked around the diner. The tables were almost full now. People from town filtered in, sipping coffee, talking in hushed tones, glancing now and then at the 2 little girls making a scene. A couple near the window exchanged raised eyebrows. Another woman, sharply dressed and tapping on an iPad, glanced over her sunglasses with mild annoyance. Alex could feel the judgment. He didn't blame them. No one knew the full story. To them, he was a young guy who couldn't control his kids. A dad who didn't know when to leave them at home. But what they didn't know was that there was no one to leave them with. He took a deep breath and reached into his apron pocket. "Okay," he whispered, pulling out the small plastic container. It was shaped like a little bear, bright yellow, half full with bubble solution. You remember this guy? The girl's eyes lit up. Bubbles. Ava gasped. Right here? Aria's eyes widened. He nodded. Just a couple. But you have to promise to stay in the booth, okay? They nodded in unison, sitting up straight. With a dramatic flair, Alex unscrewed the top and pulled out the tiny wand. He held it up, dipped it gently, and blew. A single bubble shimmered into existence, catching the light as it floated upward, spinning and drifting across the diner like a silent song. Then another. And another. The girls giggled, clapping softly. Everyone in the diner noticed. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Even the impatient woman with the iPad lowered her sunglasses. The air, heavy with stress and chatter a moment ago, softened as the bubbles danced through it. Alex kept blowing, forming little streams of magic that made the girls laugh and forget they were bored. And in that moment, it wasn't a greasy spoon diner in the middle of a tired town, it was a stage, and he was the performer. Near the back of the diner, a woman sipped from a porcelain cup and lowered her book slowly. She was in her early 40s, effortlessly elegant in a navy blazer and pearl earrings. No one knew her name. No one knew she owned a penthouse in New York and flew in by private jet. No one knew she'd built an empire of real estate, restaurants, and tech startups from the ground up. But here, she was just another guest in town, anonymous by choice. Sophia Blake hadn't planned to visit Millbrook. She hadn't planned to stop by Marigold's diner. She'd inherited the place from her grandmother and had sent her assistant to sell it weeks ago. But something about the nostalgia had tugged at her, something about the way this place made her remember simpler days, pancakes on Saturdays, and laughter at booths just like these. And then she saw the busboy. He wasn't remarkable at first glance. Slightly disheveled, hair messy from steam and work, shoes worn down from use. But there was something about him, the way he bent to the eye level of his girls, the way he never raised his voice, and the joy in his daughter's laughter when he blew those bubbles. Sophia watched longer than she intended to. Something stirred in her chest, a long-forgotten ache she had buried under boardrooms and profit margins. She had been so busy building empires she had forgotten what kindness looked like without fanfare. She saw it now, raw, honest, and beautiful. She looked to the waitress behind the counter. "Excuse me," she said, quietly, "that man. What's his name?" The waitress, Mindy, blinked. "Alex Monroe. He's our busboy. Been here since, I think 2023. Single father?" "Yeah," Mindy nodded. "Wife passed. Works 2 jobs. Raises those little angels by himself. Never asks for help." Sophia nodded slowly, stirring her tea. "He's exceptional." Mindy smiled. "He really is." Sophia pulled out her leather-bound notebook and jotted something down. "I want to talk to him," she murmured, half to herself. "But not yet." She stood, left $100 tip beneath her cup, and walked quietly to the counter. She tore a page from her notebook and folded it once, carefully. "Give this to Alex," she told Mindy, "after his shift. Not before." Mindy's eyes widened as she glanced down at the note. "I will." Sophia left without another word. As she stepped outside, the warm air brushed against her cheeks, and the faint sound of children laughing carried out behind her, tiny voices chasing bubbles and giggles. Alex didn't see her leave. He was back in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes, unaware that his life was about to change. Unaware that someone had seen him, not as a tired busboy, not as a struggling single dad, but as something far more powerful. A good man doing his best. And that, in Sophia Blake's world, was priceless.